What is up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Pull Up with Myles and Owen. Today, a long overdue friend of the show joins us, finally. He is a writer at Nets Daily. You must go follow his Substack, lucaskaplan.substack.com. You can follow him on Twitter, on Blue Sky, big Blue Sky guy over here, at Lucas Kaplan. Lucas, the homie, what is up? Welcome to the show.
Was I always a friend of the show, or was I just a friend of you guys? And now that I'm on the show, I'm a friend of the show. How does that work?
It's an interesting question because I think we've had the show since we've been friends. I don't think we really knew you before we started the podcast. So I would say you've always been a friend of the pod, but it's like you're a friend of us first. The pod is secondary, if that makes sense.
It's always really embarrassing to hear my Substack in the lead-in of an intro. But yeah, that is where I'm publishing women's basketball content, so appreciate it.
You know that like you're a true friend of ours when my goal in the intro is to embarrass you as much as possible. So like, yeah, I did it a little differently than I normally do, but just know that's a good thing in the long run.
Glad to see that nothing's going to change just because we're talking behind microphones. Anyway,
exactly
what's up, guys?
Exactly the same.
Thank you. How's it going?
Thank you so much for being here. And the reason we have you on is because we do value just everything you have to say about women's basketball, and that you've been doing great work at the Substack, at Nets Daily, when the W's in season, on Twitter, probably on Blue Sky too.
Yeah.
So maybe really appreciate that.
Maybe I was doing a lot freelance for Basketball Insiders last year, like general W coverage. But yeah, no matter where that is, I'll definitely be doing it this year. And it's tournament time, dude.
Yeah,
it's tournament time. It's like the one time a year I watch the most. I watch a lot of college basketball, man. Tennis is on, college basketball. I don't know. I'm having some late nights. I'm sure you guys.
Spring
the
training.
World Baseball Classic.
Yep.
Oh my god.
So many sports. The rare time where there are a lot of sports on at once.
Yeah.
I think that you're a great guest for this time because there are a lot of people excited about both the tournament, but also the upcoming W season. And you do such great work scouting. So I just wanted to start there. What is your approach when you are turning on a game and there's a player that you're intrigued by? What's your approach to that scout and how do you build that out?
Oh man, that's a good question. Yeah, I feel like I've always personally been better at analyzing like the micro. I think when people watch basketball, they're generally can at least start out more talented at understanding what's going on from a macro perspective, like tactics, what one team's trying to do to another as a whole. I feel like I was naturally more able to kind of see what a player, how one individual was impacting the game, strengths, weaknesses, stuff like that. Honestly, at first, I try to watch like 2, 3, 4 games and not take any notes, or whatever it is, a half, and then look at, relevant stats based on what kind of player they are. I think a lot of times people can be so granular. And as I've like met more people in the basketball world and just watched more basketball and gotten older, you realize that, and I think this is like any special interest, you ultimately start to zoom out. Like the introduction to when, you guys know this, like when you're getting into a hobby is to be like, oh, like I got to watch this play in slow motion 3 times. And then you get to the end of it and you're like, let me just watch this game almost on like 1.5 speed. Like, if you're getting into music, you're like, you know what? Like the Beatles are actually pretty good, man. It's like the same thing.
I love that answer. That's a fantastic answer. I think it's cool because like you're someone who's so incredibly smart about the granular aspects of the game, but there is that element of like wanting to get a feel for a new team or a new player or something you're unfamiliar with, and having that immense knowledge base of basketball in general allows you to watch the game from a grander perspective and then kind of dive into the minute details.
These are more compliments than you guys have given me in the span of 5 minutes in a long time. But
we're gonna cut it all.
True. Like
we're gonna cut it all.
Okay, good. I'm getting uncomfortable, but it is true. Like after that stuff, then you can go into if they're like a downhill driver, and I'm like, now I'm comfortable with the player and what their role is within the team. how is their handle in tight spaces? Like, how is their flexibility? Like, can they really, create force and bend on their drives? Like, I love getting into that stuff, but over the years, I've learned, like, you got to imagine, like, front offices and you see, like, behind the scenes videos. It's all like, give me the sell on this player. What's the elevator pitch? Like, that's not a bad way to think about basketball. If I'm talking to someone I want to get into a prospect, I'll say, like, give me the elevator pitch here. And doing that more, zooming out more has really helped me, I think, over the last few years.
What I've struggled with when I'm doing mock drafts over the last few years is I'm trying to look at the college tape and just take that player and put them into a pro system. And I'll sometimes struggle with what that comp is, what the competition they're looking at is, like how things are going to translate size wise or speed wise, knowing that there's that transition or what system they're walking into. So if you're just like able to isolate the player and their skill set rather than trying to look at their production as the be all and end all, or if they transfer 3 times and how they're playing in different systems, I could see that as being a really helpful tool for you. And for, I guess, just what I've struggled with in the past is just not knowing it's not apples to apples, and knowing that and how much weight you give to that is a big part of it too, I think.
Yeah, 100%. It's not like pro or college to pro translation or any level up, like high school to college, whatever, is not a one-to-one translation. It's not just going to be doing the same things in the same role, but just scale it up. Like the basketball changes, all that stuff changes. And yeah, man, that's part of like what makes it so cool. And I've also become, I think, way nerdier over the years and like more into trying to find relevant stats and whatnot. But that's like, a whole nother discussion. But I definitely use, like, you guys know, I love my numbers.
We all love the numbers. All right, so I want to start because we're going to be releasing this on our usual Tuesday drop day, which means there'll be like a couple days, and then it's tournament time. Best time of year, tons of games. So we're going to run through a few of these top teams, but we wanted to start with a team who you've been very dialed in on from a scouting perspective, and then I think partially through a fault of my own, is a team that has just been rolling through its schedule and does not seem to be getting the love from national media. And I say I'm partially the problem because I'm always talking about how dominant UConn is this year. As a fan, from the fan perspective, I'm always talking about South Carolina. We're going to get to those teams. UCLA has answered every question asked of it as a team, and it's just kind of ho-hum. It's like they haven't gotten a ton of attention, and that's probably for the best for them. But you spoke about elevator pitches earlier. Give me the elevator pitch on UCLA as a team entering the tournament, and then specifically players you're looking at from a scouting perspective who have a lot of pro potential, because this is a team full of players who are going to be playing in the WNBA.
Yeah, I think the elevator pitch is this is a team that really creates great shots on offense pretty consistently and makes it tough on defense. I know that's such a tough to create good shots on defense. That's like maybe the lamest answer I could have given. But this year it feels more so like they've diversified some stuff. It feels like they have a little bit more answers for, how teams want to double Lauren in the post. What Kiki Rice does if teams go under on her. Like, you're getting more ball handling from Hawkes. I think Gianna Neepkins is like a really high field wing that knows where to shoot, where to cut, all that stuff. It just feels like they have, tried to solve more potential problems in the regular season. I do want to give Corey Close some credit. I feel like they've also done the same on defense. I think they'll mix up pick and roll coverages a little bit more. I think Lauren, I just wrote about it, is like just a hell of a defender, honestly. Not that that's a hot take, but I feel like the pitch for them is, they're obviously skilled. Like, they're going to have hella players playing in the WNBA, but they, as a team this year, have just gotten a little better at problem solving. So if I was like trying to sell you on, they're going to win the national championship, that would be my pitch. Whether it comes true or not, we'll see. But yeah, they're awesome. Like, they're just a great team.
Well, so those four names that you just gave us, Rice,
Yeah.
Betts, Jaquez, Neepkins, have all been mocked around first round talent, which is wild, right?
Yeah.
That they have that much talent that's going to go to the W. Obviously, people are high on them, but of that group, who do you think, if you were in a position, you would say, this is who I think is going to have the biggest likelihood to hit her ceiling? That doesn't necessarily mean they're all on the same level, but to exceed what the expectations might be.
It's so funny because you feel like you have to fade a couple of, right? You're like, oh, what are they all going to be good just because they're on the same team? I don't know if that's necessarily a productive way of thinking about it, honestly. But, I just wrote about her. When I watch them, I'm a big Lauren fan as a prospect, as a player. There are holes, there are questions. I just think she's going to be really good at the next level. And I think it's underrated to the extent that which this revolves around her, like when you watch them. It's just actually going back to something Myles said earlier, like, yeah, you want to, like, how players might translate, but the production and the role that she plays for just an unbelievable college team, regardless of how talented they are around her, has really won me over this year. Like, it revolves around her on defense. It so revolves around her on offense. You can look at like the 30% usage rate or whatever, but even just how much they rely on her attracting doubles or digs in the post. So, yeah, I'm a big fan. I would pick her first, I guess, of that group. I think she has a high ceiling. I think she's going to be a good pro. But I know we've kind of talked about it. It's like not a hot take, but they're divisive as a group as prospects. So I'm curious also to hear your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, they are divisive. I mean, I've gone on a bit of a roller coaster with Betts, and I think I've come around to where you stand. A lot of it in the defense, for sure. Like, she's just a really smart defender. Like you said, they mix up pick and roll coverages, and she's pretty deft at doing what is needed on that end. I think Kiki Rice is a really interesting player. Just love the way that she directs that team as the kind of old school floor general, where her shooting is not at the level of a lot of other point guards in the top of Division I right now. But she makes it work, and she just has a handle on what they want to get into at all times. I think from just a more team perspective, the fact that they got absolutely demolished by UConn in the Final Four last year is really fun for narrative, because they've done everything right this year, and still they're just a footnote to UConn until they have a competitive matchup with UConn. So if that manifests in the Final Four once again, I would love to see a barn burner of a game between those two teams, because you just know that the entire year is like, we want revenge, we want get back. And this is a different team than last year. Some players went out, some players came in. I think they're way better this year than they were last year. But that's kind of my take on UCLA. I don't know if Myles, you have anything to add.
I was just going to say that because of the nature of how March Madness works on the women's side, it feels like we do get these revenge matchups a lot more because they are chalkier in the first week.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that, like, whenever we have something like this, a team that was upset the year before or a blowout that we thought was going to be a big game, it almost feels inevitable that they're going to see each other again. So I think that is really, really exciting. Though, I mean, I'm with you guys just on the overall talent in this group, but Kiki Rice is a fascinating prospect. And I think that there are a lot of W comps where you can come in as a bit of a project shooting, but if your instincts are so good, if you can run that offense, and she has been since she was a freshman, put into those roles and put into those roles a lot late in games too. So, like, if you are trusted to not turn the ball over in big spots, I think like some of her rim finishing will need to improve at the next level. Some of her shooting to keep defenses honest. But, like, we're looking at, I'm obviously someone you know well, but Veronica Burton and the way that she's been able to grow as a pro, I think could be a good prototype for Kiki, someone who has shown a willingness to put in the work and has a lot of that just kind of innate talent that's going to play at the next level. and is someone I would bet on personally.
They have just like players like this where, again, you look at the micro and there's a lot to nitpick, but like with Lauren, and again, I wrote it, I was like, man, you zoom out and you see the impact and you see her effect on winning. It's hard not to bet on that. And Kiki is, you could make a similar argument. Like, yeah, I don't know where I'm going to end up on her. I think she might be one of the most interesting players from a prospect perspective in the tournament. And I'll say why in a minute. But like, as you said, starting point guard since she was a freshman and like extremely productive every year. You know, you'll hear scouts like, this player really broke onto the scene as a senior, and that can be worrisome. You know, they have an age advantage over most of their competition. Like, that's not Kiki. Like, she for all of her warts as a prospect has been a great college player for 4 years. I am curious to see how she specifically problem solves against teams that, hopefully in the later rounds are both big enough to kind of contend with Lauren and athletic enough to clog the gaps against her, right? Because it feels like a lot of her problem solving on offense can be, rely on mid-range shot making. And that's not always a bad thing, but it's a little worrisome for pro translation, maybe not getting all the way to the rim, maybe not splitting these gaps and putting as much pressure on the defense. A lot of teams against UCLA aren't big and athletic enough to do both, right? To contend with Lauren inside and wall off her post-ups while also pressuring all these guards and perimeter scores that they have. I think they could get, 2 or 3 games where teams are capable of doing that. And so I really want to see how Kiki, as the head of the snake, like, continues to put pressure on the defense. And if their offense has a lot around, Lauren deep ceiling, posting up. And to that end, Neepkins and Gabriela Jaquez too. But Kiki as the lead ball handler, it's a really interesting march for me, for her.
100%. It's also gonna be fun to. It's fun to have a shooting variance team of this level in tournament play. Like you hope for their sake that they don't just go cold for a half, because it's gonna sink
I
them.
hope they do,
and that's not.
I hope they do early.
That's
like when they can fit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, true, right, and figure it out. And I don't mean that in a takey way of like an old head being like, oh, they shoot too many threes. Like, obviously, those are good shots. I think it's a great process thing, and it's an extremely well designed offensive attack. It's just to say that those are the realities of a single elimination tournament and a 40-minute window, where if you go cold for 25 of those 40 minutes, they're not suited to grind out in the way that some of these other teams
What's
are.
funny against UConn is it's not nothing, but they only shot 16 3-pointers. And so it felt like UConn getting blown out by them. There were obviously a lot of issues, but it wasn't even really like, they didn't shoot well on those 16 threes, but it felt like they didn't even get to those shots,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, if they lose, it could be, that's the other thing that not that you're an old head, but I always say to, like, people are like, they shoot too many threes. I'm like, a lot of times when these teams lose, it's because they don't get to enough of them.
Mm-hmm.
No, I totally agree. I want to make that clear that I think it's like you should be shooting more and more of them. And I think one of the brilliant things about UConn, and we got to move on from UCLA here, but is that UConn wanted to take those looks away. UConn made them extremely uncomfortable last year. UConn had these perimeter defenders, not to mention incredible interior defenders too, that were running them off the line and making them take uncomfortable shots. So that'll be something to watch going forward. I just got depressed like 5 minutes ago when Myles was talking about how cool the revenge narratives are, because we were robbed of Juju versus UConn last year. We were going to get it. We were going to get it again. We got it when she was a freshman in the Elite Eight, and we were going to get it in the Elite Eight again. And we did get it in the Elite Eight, but without Juju. And that was sad, and I'm sad. Something that doesn't make me sad is talking about South Carolina, because they are one of my favorite teams. Great transition by me. Self-praise is no praise, but I'm patting myself on the back. South Carolina in a fascinating spot. They lose to UConn last year in the national championship game. It's another blowout. UConn blew everyone out once the calendar shifted to 2025. Now it's 2026, and South Carolina's had an odd season in that I think number one, Chloe Kitts and her injury changed the trajectory of everything before the season even started. I think that's something that we've kind of lost in the weeds a little bit, just because we didn't see her all year. But she was someone who was going to project as, one of you can never say like the best player on a South Carolina team. Asia was the best player. Aaliyah was the best player. Camilla, probably the best player. But like in the last handful of years, it's been a very evenly balanced roster that Dawn has put together. But they bring in Tanaya Latson, and we're all like, oh, this team's going to just run over everyone. And it was not in easy acclimation. They had to figure some things out. They lose to Oklahoma like well into conference play, and it's like, ooh, this isn't looking great. Then they make a little starting lineup shift. They go small with Joyce at the 5. Everything starts to click. Then they bring a Coat back into the starting lineup. Things still clicking, looking really, really good. And then Texas just clobbers them in the SEC tournament final. And we're left with a kind of an interesting look at a team here that has had unbelievable amounts of success over the last decade, totally capable of winning the tournament, but also not the entirely dominant South Carolina teams that we've grown accustomed to. Where are you at on some of these players or the team as a whole here heading into the tournament?
Players are interesting, man. Some days I wake up and I think I would take a Coat first. Like, I don't know if I'm going to end up there.
First in the draft? First out of the South Carolina players?
South Carolina players.
Okay. I was like, whoa.
I know.
Talk about a take. We're about to clip that one.
Yeah, hey. Well, maybe I'll come up with something that's good for
Talk
social
yourself
media.
into it.
I'll say something.
Yeah.
I'll say something crazy for sure. The trajectory for her is really, really special. Like, just playing her first year of college basketball last year and being really productive and then transferring. And obviously she's on a better team, but for example, they don't rebound without her. And that is ultimately why I think they had to put her back into the, not a big secret. That's why she was reinserted in the starting lineup. Like, I got some numbers for you guys. Against high major comp, 78th percentile defensive rebounding with her, 22nd without her. Wow. 96th percentile offensive rebounding with her, 47th without her. And like the fact that South Carolina can be a below average rebounding team, like without any one player, when you think about them historically and how athletic and like dominant they've been across the board, I don't know, man. That type of impact with some of the, obviously there are shooting flashes, but she's really interesting to me as a prospect. So are Raven and Tanaya Latson, obviously. But like, I don't know. You've probably watched more of her than me. Like, does she seem like a pro big to you?
100%. I'm super high on her. I love the rebounding splits. I think I'll go back to that in a second. One of the frustrations for me of watching this team is Joyce Edwards being so unbelievably skilled, so unbelievably talented, and such a smart basketball player, but someone who occasionally I'm just like, you just need to go. You just need to go get after it. And there will be little periods where it's like, why aren't you dominating on the boards in the way that is reflected in those numbers? I think a Coat is absolutely a pro big and someone who could be really good. She's a really deft finisher. I don't have numbers to back this up. Could be totally wrong if I look at the numbers, but every game I watch, I'm like, she's getting to spots and finishing over contests in a way that indicates to me she will be really good at the next level. She's already
shooting 70% at the rim. So there you are right.
There we go.
Right.
I love to be confirmed in real time. That's it's really, really affirming. She's also someone who's getting stretchier offensively. I think that like in a handful of years, she's someone who will be knocking down 3-pointers at a fairly consistent clip. Would be something that I would, maybe that's a hot take, but I would say that's not too crazy. I'm really, really big on her, and I love the way Dawn's handled it, bringing her back into the starting lineup. And I don't mean to shit on Joyce Edwards. Like, Joyce is building, the consistency is becoming more and more of a staple every game. It's just one of those things where she's so good, and has such a complete understanding of the game ahead of her years in that regard, that when she's having lapses on defense or not getting after it on the boards, it's like, come on, I know what you're capable of. You want greatness out of her 100% of the time. I think that Raven Johnson, to me, is the most fun player to talk about because
I can see that.
damn,
Myles,
she's been so good.
what guard would you take first in the draft of those two? And this wasn't even a question for most of the cycle. Like,
they
like,
both,
so intrigue me and worry me, honestly.
So I think obviously fit is a big thing, but in terms of just a player who you think can be plugged into any team and make an impact, you're always going to need a Raven Johnson. You're always going to need someone who you can trust to go out there and not turn the ball over, but also be a defensive stopper for you. And now what we've seen this year from her offensively, adding to her game, getting to the rim with more consistency, playing so well in transition, I think is just, okay, that's somebody that we're going to want in training camp, because that's going to put pressure on everybody, on everyone, and that's going to up everyone's game. And that's not a knock on what Tanaya's ceiling is, because she's just still such a pure scorer and just so fast in the open court too. And that's just something that you can't necessarily teach. But I love that we can even have this conversation, and that's a testament to just how much growth we've seen out of Raven Johnson this year.
I know sometimes, again, micro versus macro, sometimes I get worried about like the late career shooting leap. She's shooting not super high volume, but like 40% from three. Her mid-range shooting is, again, like same kind of trajectory after being in the low 30s, mid 30s for most of her South Carolina career. She's shooting like 46%. And that feels like the swing skill, right? Like for the W projection. But you're also really, really indexing on this 1 year of shot making, which is always a little bit worrisome. Only a 70% career free throw shooter. And yet she feels like a winner. Like she play, like when you watch her, you're like, this is a winning player. No other way to describe it. Obviously, like the feel, assist to turnover ratio, like she doesn't get to the line a ton, but she really doesn't foul. She always feels in control on defense, even if she doesn't have the eye-popping athleticism like Tanaya. And then Tanaya, it's a little bit less of a macro sell, if that makes sense. It's much more of a, okay, well, the shooting hasn't been there, but you really have to believe in this combination of like feel and athleticism on defense and downhill driving on offense. And you have to trust that those tools, that everything will come around it. And no matter where she lands, I'm going to be one of the rookies I'm most excited to watch next year.
I'm glad you brought up the point about Ravens shooting, because it's been the sneakily most fun part of this season. Like you said, 40%, 2.5 a game, and those 2.5 a game are usually really good wide open looks because people still disrespect her as a shooter. I think the more promising thing for me has been the way in which she's getting to mid-range and short mid-range spots. She has a total feel for when this team needs a bucket from her, and she's getting into them in ways that are going to translate to a pro level. A little spin move into like a mini fade from 10 to 12 feet that's just money every time. And when you combine that with her defense, and like you said, she is a winner. I mean, one of the most impressive college basketball resumes we've seen in recent history, and just one of my favorite players ever. I loved how much Dawn said she's going to miss her.
I know.
When Dawn speaks about a player with such reverence, like you really know that this is a special individual, not just a basketball player. There's no way she's not going to be a really solid WNBA player in my opinion.
Quick stat, only 21% of her 2-pointers this year have been assisted. Like she is getting to her.
There you go.
That she's getting to her own. I don't think that ability is really going to fall off a cliff in the W. Good prospect,
If anything, there's going to be way more creation for her. So she'll be able to play more off the ball, get some open looks, especially early on, depending on wherever she lands. She's not going to be at the top of the scout as a rookie. So there's room to grow there with other opportunities. So that's really exciting. I'm going to move us on to, we were talking about shooting. Let's talk UConn. Let's talk how.
Why do they have
Azzi
anybody
Fudd,
that can shoot?
44.6% from 3 on 6.9 attempts. So she's doing okay from there. She's doing all right. I don't know that we've seen, like, it's just so great to see this year from her, because before the season started, the narrative was just like, please stay healthy here and you're going to be in the conversation for the lottery. And she has taken on all the extra roles here. Obviously, with Paige going pro, there was a lot more shooting that was needed from this group. And Azzi took that on. Sarah Strong obviously has made the leap. Sarah Strong is, by me and Owen's metric, the best player in the country. So
can you even say she took the leap? Like, you're not wrong. She took a leap, but it's like
usage.
She was the best player in the country like her and Juju were the best players in the country last year. She was a freshman. Every year's a leap. You're not wrong. Like, she's taking a leap, but she was already like, it's insane.
I really would have to go back and look, but the most fun question might be like, is she like, she's the greatest prospect since who? Like, she's only 2 years in, so we got half of her career ahead of her. But I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer.
I kind of want to say ever, but I'm prone to hyperbole, and I don't want to get clipped.
It's a good argument, dude.
But, like,
you have an argument. It's
I don't know.
I
don't know. There's just no holes. There's no holes in her game.
It's unbelievable to watch her make when she starts driving and passing and hitting cutters and throwing live dribble skip passes. It's like, where I'm like, how did this happen? It feels like how did this happen? It feels like something went wrong in a lab somewhere, like
something went right.
Something went right. Far away. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we should be positive.
Shout out to Allison Feaster. It's like it is cool to see, not to ground it in a serious point. God forbid I do that, but to see that the WNBA is getting to a point now where players who played their kids are now coming up and going to be entering the league. It just goes to show that this is what happens when you can invest in women's basketball and have this multi-generational thing where Allison Feaster is such a great player and someone who it just seems like has done everything right in raising her kid and having her kid be a basketball phenom, because my goodness, the sky is truly the limit when it comes to Sarah Strong in the game of basketball.
It's unbelievable. But to talk about Azzi, it's how many? I have a good question for you guys. How many off the dribble threes do you think she's attempted over the last 2 years?
4.
No, come on. Sorry,
that's a joke. Yeah, I know. I'm joking.
Over
it's
the
a
last
great
2
question.
years.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 32.
I'm gonna say 25.
34. So, easily, good job. Easily less than 1 a game. And yet she's still taking what'd you say, 6.5 threes per game. It's 14 attempts per 100 possessions. And for her, pro projection, she is gonna have to obviously shoot a ton of threes, of jumpers, and I have no doubt in my mind that she's gonna make them. Tier 1 shooter ever. But it's interesting to kind of weigh, okay, well, UConn has been so dominant, and they're so dominant in the regular season, and they can juice her 3-point volume despite the fact that she's not really getting any of these off the dribble, off handoffs, off pick and roll. And you figure that whatever team she goes to in the league is going to be listen, you're constantly in motion, you're constantly coming off dribble handoff action. You're going to need to take these pull-ups if they're open. And I'm not saying that she can't or she can, but it's just interesting to look at. She doesn't really take that many, and yet her 3-point volume is so high. So again, not that I have a ton of questions about her entering the tournament, but hopefully she's into some situations where they need her off. Like they need her to create more off the dribble. Sometimes defenders will go under her on screens and she won't shoot, and UConn gets away with it in the regular season. I hope teams make some of those mistakes in the tournament, and we'll see like if she punishes them.
Well, we did see that though in the tournament last year, right? We did see her step her game up when they needed her the most.
Definitely.
And I think that the fact that she is able to get her shot off so quickly, cleanly, and just square so efficiently makes me think that there is a lot of like, that there is still more to her to get to that shooting ceiling, which is wild because you could just watch her in an empty gym just not miss for 10 straight minutes. But it's such a repeatable form, and it just feels like, I'll bet on that shooting every time, right? And to see the defensive growth this year as she was put into more positions on that end is also really encouraging, because everyone's a two-way player now, right? With just how fast the game is, and with the 3-point volume increase, just the possessions are up, and you're going to get cross-matched all the time. So it's really good that we're seeing her be challenged more on that end when you're just talking about what her overall pro ceiling is. But it's cool that we came into the season and like I said at the top, okay, we think that she's a first rounder, probably a lottery pick, and that all of her counting stats are career highs. And we're just seeing her really take on more every time that she's out there, which is a cool thing to see sustained for an entire season.
Yeah, I definitely don't mean to like cast doubt on her ability to be a good pro, but wondering about that ultimate shooting ceiling and her fit in a pro offense, like how high it can really be. Because obviously you put someone who's born to shoot the rock, and like you look at the defense, is going to be a contributor on that end. She's going to be a good pro, but her, like what you think her offensive ceiling is, one of the more interesting questions of the cycle for sure, because it could be the difference between her going in the top 2 or, the top 6.
Yeah. And I think that that's such a great point and such a great way to look at this, and that like, we can almost like when you're seeing the NFL combine and you're watching people run against air and you're like, oh, they're so fast. Yeah. Like it's cool for us to be able to watch her not miss in a gym, but like that is not ever a situation that she's going to be in when she turns pro. So it's absolutely a good point to just not get swayed by that, which works on me.
I will say I thought about it last night. Like she's going to be one of the people that makes, if she hasn't done it already, I don't know, she might have said it somewhere, 100 threes in an empty gym. Like the famous 10 shots at 5 spots around the arc twice. Steph has hit 100, like Kyle Korver, someone is like, oh, I've topped out at 99. In her life, she could win like all the titles, all the awards. She might be one of the like couple humans on earth that can put that I think in her life is going to go 100 of 100 if she hasn't done it already. Like, it really doesn't matter, esoteric piece of information, but hey, like that's like the shooting holy grail to me, who fancied myself as like a shooter in pickup. I could like going 100 of 100. I think is the holy grail, and like I'm like, yeah, AZ could do that.
So it's only a matter of time before you achieve that, Lucas.
Yeah,
keep grinding.
Yeah, I'm about halfway there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say we are a little short on time, so I wanted to bring the floor to you, Lucas. And there are so many obviously elite prospects we're not talking about, but there are also just so many players that might be under the radar. So I wanted to give you a window here to say, are there other names that you really have watched some film and you're like, more people need to be talking about this player? Is there someone that you think 2 or 3 strong games really raises their stock in the tournament? Who are you most excited about that we can like put a spotlight on for this tournament?
The spotlight's already on her, but I still think Janiah Barker is one of the most interesting evals in the tournament. Again, like people know about her game, all this. Same thing with Gianna Neepkins, who I'm kind of like struggling with where to place, but I hope she gets more of this creation thrust onto her. Like going from Utah and UCLA and then jumping in every offensive category that you'd want. Like, okay, a little bit more of an ancillary role. Assist turnover goes way up. Finishing goes way up. All of this complementary stuff way up. You're like, whoa, is this like a really high level complimentary offensive player in the W. And then I think there's a lot of bigs down the list, like second, third round bigs, maybe, that just have a ton of athletic and rebounding or whatever the case may be, like potential in terms of a lot of them are in the SEC, like Kyla Oldacre, ridiculous physicality, fouls a ton, some defensive questions, but I could see her as a pro, as someone taking a bet on her. Sasha Washington on Vanderbilt, some really fun rebounding and assist to turnover numbers this year. Amaya Joyner, even on LSU, like another. I feel like we've talked so much about these SEC teams, and I've watched a ton of them, but obviously Flau'jae is the head of the snake in terms of prospect watching, and they have so many fun players to watch. But Amaya could be a name. I know I just gave you guys like 5 names, but those are some of my like tournament watches beyond the ones we've discussed. If you guys have any like additional names to throw out there or takes on any of those players.
I loved your list. You also had Sarah Williams.
Oh yeah.
Who we didn't talk about in the UConn segment, but no, your list was perfect. Like Sasha Washington is someone who I have enjoyed watching so much this year, and they just are better when she's on the court. She does so much that is so necessary for that team in terms of crashing the offensive glass, making really smart interior passes. Just bringing really positive energy. Oldacre is someone I've always loved watching. I'm like her feel around the rim is so ridiculous that if you're the opposing team, you're like, oh,
she was made to play for Vic Schaefer too. It was just a perfect match made in heaven.
100%. And Sarah Williams is someone who I think deserves an immense amount of credit for sacrificing a ton when it comes to counting stats and volume and usage and being so perfect as the 5 on this team that has a generational 4, that has potentially the number 1 overall pick in the draft at the 2. She's just doing everything they need very subtly, and has been brilliant.
Yeah.
So I love
she's
your
worth
list.
a flyer 100%. I know we didn't really talk about her, but the role change, that's the thing I love too about college basketball and like high major transfers is I think it's really valuable to see these players in different contexts over their careers. Like Neepkins, Latson, Sarah Williams, and there's more I'm forgetting, but that's
Olivia Miles.
That's a great who we didn't even talk about. That is a fun part of scouting and why I've really loved especially like on the women's side more so than one and done prospects, or it's just a different dimension and very valuable data to see these players in different contexts.
So that was actually a question that, because we got through like a third of our sheet because we just got stuck as we knew we would.
Yeah, classic.
Shocking.
I had that about like just counting Sarah Williams from a scouting perspective. You see her percentages shoot up even while her averages are coming down. What do you think about a player that goes from a 19 point a game scorer where she is being played through to just 7 points a game, but seeing such a big leap? If you're looking at this for what she's going to be at the next level, is that like, oh, this is a player that is going to be bought into wherever she is? Or is that this is someone that if a system is not built around her won't be able to produce as much? Like, where do you fall there?
Right. I mean, there are, players that you anticipate having a higher usage or a high usage at the next level. There are players that you think, going to have to scale down, play more of an ancillary role. It's cool to see that happen at the same level, right? Like still in school. Honestly, the Big East is probably a step down from the Big Ten. And so she, had a little bit more runway to work it out, but it is exactly what I would want to see from her at the end of last year. Like last year, right, with Wisconsin, 33% usage rate, really offense facing prospect, and that she flashed some stuff, and it was cool to see, any prospect really drive an offense, carry an offense. You learn a lot, but I think even if you were high on her then, you didn't anticipate that being her role probably at the next level. And so it hasn't been a perfect season with Connecticut, but to see, she's gotten on the offensive glass more. The block rate has increased. She's shooting far better. Her defensive numbers, her all-in-one metrics are way higher. Again, there's still those questions, but all of those areas as an ancillary player, it's like, yes, this is what I expected in this role change, and you would assume that it would happen, but until you actually see it, you don't know. And so that's an example of where that production from a box score perspective, like just zooming out, is really helpful, and that context change. So I'm not sure where I'm going to land on her. Like, some of the defense hasn't been perfect, right? Some of the short role playmaking, stuff like that, but definitely a cool season in terms of when you think about what she had to go through, And also, like, I don't have any intel. I don't know these players behind the scenes. I'm just totally doing it with whatever information is publicly available. But that gives you a window into maybe some of like the character and work ethic, right? Like the buy-in, how good you are as a teammate. And I don't profess to know any of that, but you can kind of glean some of it just from a basketball perspective when something like that happens,
Yeah, we totally appreciate you waiting until the end to tank your credibility. That helps our listeners because they already got to this point and already listened to the rest of the pod. The last thing as we get you out here is off of basketball. What in your life are you excited about right now? And are you going to give us the same answer that Sydney Colson did a couple episodes back?
Do you know what I'm going to say?
I can guess.
Juggling, or it's either juggling or the Yankees.
We can go with both.
We can't talk about the Yankees. It's gonna be another 30 minutes. It's juggling. I'm getting good at juggling, brother.
I called it.
You and Sid,
I've also read more this year, so juggling and reading. But
love that. You and Jackie Young are gonna need to have a juggling competition.
I know.
Sid will be yo-yoing in the corner, and you and Jackie can have a juggling.
I know.
I like this revolution of just like elementary school, like games and sports that are gonna come back.
Dude, it's great. Get off the phone and juggle. Like do a Rubik's Cube. I love it. I love it, bro. And I heard Jackie, she was talking about juggling tennis balls. I just bought some real juggling balls. I might need to hook her up. Like the difference is unbelievable. They have a little give. They're kind of like hacky sacks. I need to chop it up. Can you like arrange a surprise? Like invite her on here, and it can be kind of a trap, and then I can just be here and we'll talk about juggling. Yeah.
Amazing.
You,
Easy.
We got her on speed dial. Don't worry, we got you.
Perfect.
Lucas, we appreciate you. You're a good sport. We tease you all the time, but you're the best. We're lucky to have met you in this space for real. And if any team executive has made it to minute 49 of this damn podcast, which is a horrifying thought, hire this man. Truly, it would be the most plus EV thing you could do. You're the best.
Way to cop the language.
Cheers,
brothers.
Thanks, Lucas. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you. Bye.
That's it for this episode. Thanks again to Lucas Kaplan for joining us. He rocks. Follow him at Lucas Kaplan on all the platforms and go read his Substack, lucaskaplan.substack.com. He's writing a ton of great women's basketball stuff, very in-depth basketball analysis that is must read. Thank you so much to all of you for listening to our show, which is titled Pull Up with Myles and Owen. We're very grateful for every download, every like, every subscribe. You know the drill. It helps us all. Go follow us on YouTube. We're trying to build up our following there, posting a lot of stuff, full episodes and little clips and shorts as well. And if you want even more, in addition to all that good stuff, subscribe to our Patreon page, Step Back with Myles and Owen, for tons of exciting bonus content, a more chill vibe, less of the interview format, more just us chopping it up on everything women's basketball. We got uncut interviews with players over there, some written stuff coming, in-depth analysis of the game as we get ready for tournament time and maybe a WNBA season, question mark.
As Owen said, you can subscribe to our channel on YouTube at Pull Up with Myles and Owen, but find us on your podcast player of choice too. You can see us on Spotify, on all the ones I don't know, on Apple Podcasts, on any of them. Leave a rating, leave a review, and also follow us on Instagram at Pull Up with Myles and Owen. And you could find me at Twitter at Myles Ehrlich.
You can follow me at Twitter at Owen Pence. Stay tuned. Appreciate you guys. We will see you next week.
Pull Up with Myles and Owen is hosted by Myles Ehrlich and Owen Pence. This episode was written and produced by Myles Ehrlich, Owen Pence, Molly Socha, and Kevin Kdot Lewis. Molly Socha is our executive producer, and special thanks to Lucas Kaplan for taking the time today.